We will now resume this committee of the whole. Ms. Sarah Ashley Andrews. Hello, how you doing? I remember when you were first nominated and appointed in 2022, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, but most importantly, your work as a therapist. And so, as a board, have we begun working on or strategizing? This is a follow-up question that was already asked regarding how we address the issue of trauma. Gun violence is the number one issue here in the city of Philadelphia right now, and particularly amongst our young people who are going to and from school. They're experiencing a level of trauma which probably we've never seen in this lifetime in terms of young people being shot and murdered here in the streets of Philadelphia. So can you just give us an idea, but particularly you from your perspective, things we have been doing, things we can do in the future as relates to addressing the issue of trauma that our young people are experiencing as a result of gun violence?
So the first thing I want to say, when we think about trauma, we think about the journey to and from school. One thing we have expanded is our Safe Paths program, right? So we want to make sure that there are police officers out there, there are community people out there, there are people that are keeping eyes on our children as they're going to and from schools, right? I think we're expanding now to 22 more schools this year. We're expanding that.
FY 25, 22 additional schools?
Yes. So that's one thing, right? Making sure our kids are safe, at least going to and from school. The second thing is, and I mentioned it earlier, is that we established a program, KUTH, which every student has access to, and then also teachers too, but there's another program for teachers. And I can't recall the actual program that we have for teachers and staff members, but there is a program that they can access for free too when we're dealing with trauma. Do I think we're doing enough? No. I mean, we live in Philadelphia. We see the gun violence. We see not just the gun violence, the drug problem, right? We see the overdoses. We see all these things happening. And we can't shield our kids from it because it's on social media, it's everywhere. So, it's, when I was in school, I could be shielded from some things. We can't shield them now. So I think we definitely have to make some investments in some more counselors and mental health resources for our district.
Thank you very much. Ms. Crystal Cubbage. Ms. Cubbage, you recently stated that your work at an education think tank helped you gain insight into what healthy, functional schools look like. Can you give us an idea what these healthy, functional schools have that our school districts lack, so we can better see how we can be supportive of the district and its goals?
Yes. To start, there needs to be a clear school culture that is responsive to the adjacent community, with some clearly articulated core values that anchor the entire school model, so that it is clear to school leaders, teachers, parents, students. A good example would be the SLAs. They have a clear, there are 5 dimensions to their core values. I think it's, I'm going to get this wrong, inquiry.
Can you elaborate what SLAs are for non-educators who are here today?
I sure can. It is a group of schools, Science Leadership Academy. It started off about 16, 17 years ago. Chris Lehman is the current CEO. He's the founder of those schools. There's SLA Bieber, which also has a middle school. And one of the schools I helped to open is SLA Middle School. So another component of a healthy school, I also work with an organization named New Tech Network. When I was at the district, that organization was hired to help the Link, one of the Innovation Network schools, to clarify what its school model was after so much turnover in leadership. And they too talk about a clearly articulated model. They talk about school, the facilities. We had a lot of facilities conversations, so the facilities should be a reflection of the model. For example, if you want to get students together to do things collaboratively, there should be space to do that. And SLA Middle School is a new new school, and it has those spaces. Another component in addition to the model is the school schedule that supports that model, and then PD that also bleeds into it. So the model and how well it is articulated allows for the rest of the school structure to be built so that it's beneficial for schools. It's a model that is clearly understood across the community. Those are some of the pieces.
Okay, thank you very much. The chair recognizes Chair of Education, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. A couple things. First, I want to start with a little lesson in Black vernacular, because I think that there are some people who take my tonal semantics or my energy around children as something that is different than what it is. As a dark-skinned Black man, when you raise your voice and you are passionate about something, racist accusations tend to come out. So I want to be very clear. This is about children and education, families that we advocate for, and I apologize if my authentic Black self bothers some people, and I know for a fact that that's not the school board members here, so I want to make it clear that I'm not talking about you guys. Couple quick questions that I'm hoping you can answer so we can have some things on the record as we as educators try to put ourselves in a position to be able to have some expectations once the board is confirmed. A facilities plan, we talked about that earlier. Board President Streeter, do you think it's realistic that we can have a facilities plan that talks about where we're going as a city before the end of the calendar year? Do you think that that's something that's realistic?
When you say, I mean, I'm not going to ask questions. When you say a full plan, do you mean around vision, where we're headed, or like this school right here, this is what needs to happen to it? Just
Yeah, I mean, so it's a two-part thing in my opinion, and I could be wrong because I'm no expert. The first part I think about is the change of population in the city of Philadelphia. You have some parts of the cities where the population has grown significantly, and that part of the city might need an elementary school. Then you have other schools where the building is underutilized, and then you have other schools where the actual facility is decapitated. We don't know how many schools are in a position where they need to be torn down, built new. We don't know how the change of population has changed the demand for elementary schools. I think about Councilmember Squilla's district, the Council President district. These are areas that have seen a boom in population. And so when we think about a facilities plan, these are some of the things that we will consider. So do you think it's realistic that we can have a facilities plan that include all of those things by the end of the year?
based upon my earlier testimony and to be, not to be a hypocrite of what I said earlier, there's a process right now with the data warehouse that is going to be necessary to have that conversation. But I do believe it is fair to say that there can be a better articulation of where we're headed, okay, and vision and mission. And I think it's also very important for us, the district and the board, and I think our new colleagues who are coming, to understand that it'll be disingenuous if we had a plan right now, I think personally. If I was to walk into a community and say, this is what we're going to do to you now, or come to you as city council, say this is what we're going to do to schools in your sector, without talking to Brother Jones, Councilmember Jones, as relates to Overbrook, that I think is I think that would be a bad look. And I think we've tried that in the past, and maybe we're overcorrecting too much, and we're trying not to do that again. So
do you think it would be fair to say that we could have a facilities plan by the end of next calendar year, 2025, considering all those things that you just mentioned that need to be done before we have a plan that we all feel comfortable with?
Well, I will first say is definitely what we're trying to do is follow the lead of our mayor, right, in collaboration with city council. But I believe, from what I know, in which some of these questions are above my pay grade as it relates to making sure the timing is correct for the village to move forward. If all the stars align, and with the mayor who's bold, and the board that's, I think, ready to do the right work and be thoughtful, I think there's a good chance. I mean, as a lawyer, it's hard for me.
Sure, fair.
I give you percent, 70, 60%, 75% chance, but I think there's a good chance.
Can I get a point of information in here? I know our mayor has a bold vision to address lead and asbestos schools and make sure we address facilities and even look at even consolidating some schools and building new schools. And I also know on a state level, we have our representatives who are sitting by willing to be supportive. I know the governor, Josh Shapiro, he started a facilities fund to address that very same issue. But I also know for a fact there's conversations saying when Philadelphia comes to Harrisburg, particularly around facilities, and support, we want to see a plan. And so I think what Chairman Thomas was talking about is sense of urgency, right? Because at the end of the day, we shared text messages on a group where schools are closing down, or half the school building is open and the other half of the school building is shut down. And when you get those type of text messages, and most importantly, responding to our constituents, the parents, right, then we have a duty to respond in an urgent way. And I think that's where this line of questioning is coming from, because it was about 2 years ago where we were down in the mayor's reception room under the last administration addressing this very same issue. And so I think it's the urgency that a lot of us want to feel, a lot of us are looking for, that is really critically important. I know the board believes that it's important, but it's that sense of urgency, like come hell or high water, we're going to get this done, rather than bringing an outside consultant, help with the process, get everybody around the table. Same way we built the I-95 bridge, right? That bridge broke down and everybody in the whole world came together. They did press conferences, and we had the Eagles, the Flyers, and the Sixers, and the Flyers, they all came down on trucks and they were celebrating, but they were in the room every single day trying to figure that part out about how we make a bridge, right? I-95 thoroughfare to go to and from, but that was dealing with commerce. That was money related. And I believe our children are just as important to receive that same level of urgency. So I think that's where Mr. Chairman is going to. The chair recognizes the Chair of Education, Isaiah Thomas.
Council President, I couldn't said it better myself, and I think the sense of urgency is not just the issues that we're facing with facilities, but some of us are concerned that Harrisburg's $14 billion surplus just won't last forever. And while they do have the surplus, while the court ruling is fresh in everybody's mind that says our schools are severely underfunded, we feel like this is the perfect time to cash in on that guarantee that the governor made, as long as we can provide a facilities plan. Next question, yes or no? Board President Streeter, you and the other returning board members, I commend you because you did a great job with the Unite Here contract when that contract came up to par, and a lot of us on City Council was extremely worried about those workers, the wages, and some of the issues that they presented to us. In the audience, we have Dr. Robin Cooper, who's amazing. She leads our principals union. I've seen Jerry Jordan, who leads our teachers union. You have a number of other unions that are represented within the district whose contracts are going to be expiring pretty soon. Yes or no, do you think you'll be able to you and this new board will be able to have that same sense of urgency around these contracts that are going to be expiring pretty soon, as you did around the Unite Here contract?
Yes.
Okay. I know you took some of my time, Council President. A couple more things real quick. Athletics. You guys know I'm really big in the sports space. We're very concerned about the lack of revenue for athletics. So I would ask, can this board give the Council President something in writing that speaks to how do you plan on dealing with the facilities crisis that we have with athletics? The PIAA is looking to make a new law that says that your facilities have to be up to a certain standard in order to host a home game. Based on this new law and based on our facilities, every athletic competition that takes place outdoors or in every athletic event that takes place outdoors or that's not in a gymnasium, Philadelphia would not be able to host that home competition in the playoffs because none of our facilities would match the standard of the PIAA. So can you please get the Council President a plan in writing to be able to address the facilities crisis we're dealing with in a sports space, because we're concerned. I also want to, on a record around special admission schools. City Council, for those who don't know, City Council meets on a monthly basis with the leadership at the school district as well as at the school board, and one of the things similar to leveling that we've seen some issue with is our special admission schools. We want you guys to give the principals a little more autonomy to be able to fill vacant seats when they're not necessarily filled. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson talked earlier about girls' high school, right? And I'm not going to ask you on the record to give us a decision around special admission schools today, because I do believe the commitment is there to try to figure it out. But I do want to put on the record our advocacy to assure that every special admission seat is filled in our school unless our children don't want to go there, right? So whatever we need to do to fill those seats, we want to do it. Arts, music programs, big concern for us. Not enough arts programs and music programs in our schools. So if you could get the Council President something in writing as it relates to a plan to get more arts, more music programs in our school. I'm no artist, I can't dance, I can't paint, I can't sing. But I'm sure that there are young people out there who are great at that, and it's unfortunate that most of our schools do not provide those type of programming. So what are we going to do about that? We're very short on librarians. We're struggling with librarians in our schools, right? So what are we going to do to make sure that our schools have librarians? We have a ton of people who always want to donate books and things of that capacity to us, but it's unfortunate that some of our comprehensive schools do not have a library to go to. Last but not least is my shameless plug. I would like our schools to teach financial literacy and civics and government the senior year in high school and give young people the option to get registered to vote. I'm a former teacher myself, so I would never ask you to implement this in a testing grade because I understand that the state creates standards as it relates to standardized tests that make it hard for teachers to abide by while simultaneously trying to teach things like civics and government and financial literacy when we don't provide any standardized testing on that. So the reason I'm asking for that specifically in the senior year of high school is because I know that the senior year of high school is not a year where we use standardized testing to determine the amount of revenue you get from the state, which is wrong, Council President, but it is the way it is. So my last comment as I close out, and I'm hoping you can get all this stuff in writing, Council President, please provide us something in writing as it relates to your opinion on civics and government and financial literacy. And my personal recommendation is to make that mandatory the senior year in high school so every child graduates with some level of financial literacy as well as civics and government with the option to get registered to vote. Council President, that is it for me today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Vice Chair of Education, Councilman Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President Johnson. I've been sitting here listening attentively to this discussion. Why? Because education is vital and critical to one of the reasons why I'm here, right? And I just want to I'm noticing a dynamic. The dynamic is very different than even how we're governed. Our council president, right, is very, like, he's a facilitator. He allows us to make ideas. He allows us to come together. He's not like the person that is like, my way, highway, right? But his leadership, and you can see it, and you can observe it, and you can feel it. The dynamic that I'm observing with this particular board, which a lot of people have been concerned about in the community, is that Chairman Streeter, your influence is so high that the rest of the board members don't have a feeling to kind of like move, or they're not as involved or as engaged. It's like they move when you move. Is that true, or is things gonna be better? Because thus far what I've been seeing is that Sarah's been trying to grab the mic, other people, everyone's been trying to grab the mic at some point, and every time you would say, let me grab it back. So how can we make sure that this is a board that is very inclusive, as opposed to there's a level of like, we move when Streeter moves. He has all the knowledge.
I'm going to show my active listening, and I'm going to let the current board members who are allowed to speak today to speak.
Thank you.
I recognize your observation. I'm not going to debate with you about your observation, but I don't think it's true that we just move when he moves. I think he's a leader. We're all leaders by nature, so we're all going to want to say something at one point, but he is our president, currently our president, and so I don't think the culture is, though, that we just move when he moves, or we're not involved. We all have our own areas that we're involved in.
But he does seem like he has more knowledge around all of the systems and things than what I've been seeing lately. I'm just saying, I watch people like, oh, wait, like, is it like, does it like one or two people only have all the knowledge? Is that the dynamic that we're going to be looking forward to in our future?
I would say that President Streeter has been our spokesperson, and he has a lot of experience being our spokesperson, has spoken to many of you in this room about many of these issues, has a lot of context as to the discussions that have occurred around these two issues, or several issues. And so we trust President Streeter's leadership in these conversations because we know that his answers are our answers too.
Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to add, my observation is that a lot of the questions have been about what's happened historically. And so as a newly appointed nominee.
Oh, yeah, that really wasn't for you. That was
Okay,
for,
all right.
that was for the prior
You know,
board.
because, you know, when he
rec-
moves, we move,
I-
you know.
I have high expectations for the new folks.
Okay.
But I also want to make sure that the new people understand that this city council is really collaborative, and we want to make sure that there's a level of listening and collaboration as well with this particular school board too. And once you guys get your feet wet, we expect so much more, right? So that's fine. All right, quick things. If you had to run on some level of excellence, or what you can bring to what you could bring to the Philadelphia School Board, or things that you have done successfully, this is for our new appointees as well as our returning appointees, what would that be? Like, what is the new innovative thing that you hope to bring to the Philadelphia School District this particular year? The parent university is an amazing thing, but are we going to have, like, by the end of the year, we're going to see X, Y, Z that's going to be held accountable by the school district? Bullying has been rampant around the school district of Philadelphia, and we have not figured out any particular campaign to, like, what is going to be your innovative thing that you can say by the end of the year, we can highlight this to the general public, saying the success of our district has been this?
As a new member,
Yes.
it's impossible for me personally, maybe some of my other colleagues here can speak to that. So we're stepping into this role really not knowing the level of bureaucracy that we have to navigate. We certainly have ideas, but can we move those ideas forward? We don't know yet. I know in terms of the skills that I hope to utilize in this position, they include collaboration. It includes engaging employers for workforce development at the high school level with the passing of Act 158. That's something that's really, really important to me, and I think really can be developmental for our students. And then I personally have skills in operations, so I am not completely clear, not knowing the landscape, not being briefed on all the things, budgets, facilities, so on and so forth, on exactly how I'll be able to utilize my skills, to innovate. But I know that there will be some innovation.
I'm sorry, because I'm a current board member, but I'm speaking as an individual, not even as the board
Yes.
president. And I know a little something about what's going on. I think around the charter piece, I think there's some things that we can do. So I was an Eisenhower Fellow, and I went to Finland and Kenya to learn about public education. And one of the things I noticed is that there is a policy cycle around public education or education in general. And I don't think in Philadelphia we have a cadence from when we need to go back and look at the framework and see is something that we agreed upon 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years ago needs to be revisited. I think that's something new we need to do with our charter framework. And right now, there are 3 board members working right now, one being board member Chow Wing Lam and one board member Joyce Wilkerson, working through the kinks to figure out how do we create a policy cycle where there might be an RFP or something like that comes out for a neutral third party to help us engage around the academic domain of the framework. That's new, right? That's where we're headed, right? Number 2, I think that we need to be more transparent in many ways around charter stuff, the topic. I think there needs to be more public hearings where we can hear from our providers in a way that is enshrined in our policy so that everybody knows what to expect. In public where we can hear from the providers, but also we, maybe the board members, can ask a few questions at some point in the process as well. I think it has to be public. I think it can't be behind the scenes as well. That's just a couple of things, and I think we have to empower our parents in the charter sector as well. We're talking about parent university in the district side. Even though we might have the same tool on the charter side, we can think about, well, if we have the same ideology around student achievement, we're using different tools. With this tool, I think we have to find a way to empower parents so they can go to their boards and hear from the boards of the charter schools to hear their concerns and get into the know and advocate and rally against a decision that might be made, or say, wait a minute, we see in your year 3 of your ACE report, there might be something going on, and we want to be able to help the leader of the charter school get what they need so that when year 5, we're not out here looking crazy, like, not looking crazy, but out here looking like, well, what's going on? And I think if we do those 3 things I've just said, I think we're going to get through a lot of the things. And one more thing I'll say as well, after talking to personally the drafters of the ballot report, one of the things that I heard was, your issue, right, might be communication, transparency. Your decisions might have been legitimate, right? But if people don't know why you're making them, it can feel, and as black folk, you know what I mean, it can feel like someone's doing something to you. And just because you wasn't the one who was there who made that decision, or wasn't there who started the process, that doesn't mean that you should still not, engage with the community. So I think will help all of us to kind of have a shared language around what a quality seat is, by way of the ongoing policy cycle where we talk about what the framework is and how it should evolve based upon lessons learned over the last 4 or 5 or 10 years, whatever that policy cycle will be. 2, we empower our parents on both sides of the portfolio, is one portfolio to me. And then 3, we got to do a better job of having tough conversations that are data-driven, law-driven, and based upon our lived experience collectively, and make the best decisions for Philadelphia. That is my vision as a board member, right? And I'm dealing with the tools I have, and I think we have a slate of individuals who can get everything I just said done. But we're going to need your help as well. Thank you.
The chair recognizes. Want to make a comment? Go ahead.
I just want to quickly, that's such a great question. I've been asking myself the same question. Because I think, especially the new nominees, we bring a lot of knowledge, a lot of ideas, a lot of experience, but it is, just like Crystal said, too soon to tell. I can just offer you my dreams, what I would hope would happen, and the skill set that we all bring to the table. Specifically, I can speak for myself. My last experience was actually in a private school. And one of the things I have noticed, whether we're talking about a traditional public school, traditional charter school, a private school, where I met with a single mother who could not afford the tuition, but was still having 3 jobs to pay that tuition because she cared about her child's safety. And I believe that at the end of the day, whatever school setting we're talking about, I am dreaming that we have safe schools, that children are challenged and not just told what to do by a new textbook, but that they're critical thinkers, that they're able to navigate a changing culture, and that we, the school district of Philadelphia, we prepare them for that. Someone mentioned earlier, I think it was one of our council members, that we're all guilty of this. So if there's a problem with our schools, we can't just blame each other. We just can't say, it's the mayor, it's the superintendent, it's city council. No, we all have a piece, we all have a responsibility, and it is my desire that I will learn whatever it is I need to learn to get this job done. But the truth of the matter is that everyone in this slate comes with experience. We're smart, we're critical thinkers, that if we put us in a room together, we'll be able to get the job done.
Thank you. The chair recognizes, I felt their energy too. The chair recognizes Councilman Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted to add one question, and it was that, the education, and we see the passion for education on the board. And when we're talking about facilities, who is the facilities person on the board that really understands the ins and outs of the school, and can, when the district's able to say things to you, able to push back on the district about those things?
In the 2 years that I've been a board member, we've not had a facilities committee. I think it's time we have a facilities committee.
So will you be starting one?
Once the nominees are confirmed to our collective board seats, I'm sure there will be energy to create
one.
such a committee.
Okay, I think that's really important, because as we talk about the educational pieces, part of learning is being in safe facilities in order to learn. And I think we really need to look at somebody who can look at the facilities, understands them, and has a way to, when the district tells us things, or even you guys, be able to push back and say, no, this isn't the case, we need to do better. So I would really love, once this board is situated, to be able to create a facilities committee, and then have somebody who really understands the facility to lead that. So thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Jay Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. How does the district determine So what is your role in determining the curriculum of the district?
So we're governance, right? So we have a director of curriculum, right? So we get briefed on things, we ask questions, and all those. We get briefed on all those things, we ask questions, but Dr. Wallington, that's his role as far as the curriculum.
So are you able to provide like advice and feedback on the types of things that our kids are learning? And I ask that because we all know that like in order for success in our children, like 8th graders need algebra, right? So in a lot of schools, 8th graders are not being taught algebra. I went to a school in my district, a charter school in my district, and I saw that the 9th graders were doing fractions, right? Fractions was their math in 9th grade. They're set up for failure, right? And so again, that's why my question is like, how can we, if we know that the data says that certain curriculum and certain grades can lead to higher outcomes, why are we not doing what the data says that needs to be done, as far as, you know, particular types of curriculum being taught in certain grades?
It is absolutely the board's role to set expectations for what we want our students to know and be able to do, and by when. As a board, we expect students to be reading at grade level. We wish and are pushing for algebra in 8th grade, and we expect and direct that students, even if they are not at grade level, be exposed to grade level content. But in terms of the materials, the learning plan to get there, that is our superintendent's role, and we have authorized him and his team to do the research and make those decisions and let us know what they've decided and why, so that we can better understand how that will align with the expectations that we've set as a board.
So how do we then hold the school district accountable, right? Because if the superintendent is setting those expectations, and we're seeing year after year that those expectations, from my understanding, I think that for this particular superintendent, they've lowered expectations to meet standards in certain areas for around attendance, for example. Right now, attendance to have I guess satisfactory attendance, they lowered that percentage of days that a student needs to be there in order to meet that particular mark. So it's like, how can we then hold the school superintendent accountable, I think, to enable the students to achieve higher, right? Because I think it's your job to hold them accountable, but if he presents a plan to you and you just say, okay, that plan still gives us this mediocrity that we've been given over and over and over again.
That's a great question, and there's a difference in what we expect and what we monitor. So attendance being a really great example, if our expectation is that students are in school 100% of days, and that every single school has 100% of students 100% of days, and we monitor at the level of percentage of students at school 100% of days, it won't give us a lot of information to go by in terms of what we need to do to get closer to 100. But when we monitor at a level of, here are the schools that are not meeting this benchmark of 90% of students attending, then we get to see patterns and have better, clearer information to drive the practices that will change the data to get us to what we expect.
It seems like you're manipulating the data in order to reach the goals that you want to reach, rather than using what's actually happening to make the decisions. I mean, I just understand that.
Can I say one thing? And you're right. I understand the sentiment, but our goals and guardrail meetings once a month, I think, will answer a lot of these questions, right? We ask the superintendent, we put the data up, and algebra is one of the things, algebra, English language arts, and we also look at science. And we progress monitor. Yes, we have goals, right? And if the needle is not moving up, that's when we intervene. But we've seen consistent growth and academic achievements and the superintendent has gotten here, and we put that data out there and we do progress monitoring. So I'll just add that once a month we do progress monitoring, and I think we're actually doing the thing that you were telling us to do. And one more thing I'll say as well, that stuff is in his evaluation. And he's making everybody's evaluation at 440 reflect his evaluation. That's the dream where we're headed, so that we can hold everybody accountable from the top to the other side of the pyramid.
Thank you, Mr. President. I heard the bell.
You're welcome. Councilmember Lozada.
Council President, we heard in round one a lot about charter, non-charter. I mentioned earlier that some of the public schools in my district are amongst the lowest performing. And so for some parents in my district, charters are the best option, right? Because it's where they feel their child is going to receive the best academic journey, or because they feel that their children are in the safest spaces, right? And so while we work towards improving the public schools in my district, charter is what they have. But we've also heard from my charter providers the challenges that they experience when they're dealing with the charter school office as well as with the school district. And so my question is, do you all support separating the charter approval function from the school board, and why or why not, right? And do you support separating the CSO function from the district, why or why not?
I will say no. What I will also add is that we have a history, right? And I mentioned it earlier that there are things that we have gotten better at and more things we have to get better at. But I know the current leader of the charter school office is doing everything he can to kind of get over that kind of, I think the apprehension of engaging with us due to the history. So for example, he does these things called professional learning communities, where he tries to bring in charter leaders to understand how to understand best practices, things and ways to get better. That's something that never happened before. There's this thing called an early window where charter operators can come in and have engaged with the charter school office and try to figure out ways to say, hey, there's a mistake in my data. Can you fix it? So I'm gonna stop there, but I do not believe that because this is one system of public education, and I think when you separate the two, you may have two systems going in completely opposite situations. At least now it's housed in one house where we can come here whenever this process happens, and you can hold us accountable in one place. In addition to that, that's what the law provides for, and that's what's contemplated. So I would say that I think that we just got to get better at what we do, and I think the one system of public education piece is going to, I think that's the way to do it. Once you split it out, it can get, I think, a little bit murky.
But don't you think that that is almost like the judge and the prosecutor being the same person, right? It's difficult to evaluate to evaluate expectations or some of those golden guardrails if it's almost like the same person, right? And I think that that's some of the challenges that I consistently hear from some of my charter providers. How do we get the school district to understand that charters are not competing against you, right? I think that charters are providing just another opportunity for children, or another option for families to choose for their children. How do you get us to that point, right? Where we stop, I think Wanda mentioned it earlier, right? How do we stop competing and start trying to make it about the children and families being able to choose the best option for themselves? How do we do that?
I think I mentioned some things earlier that are pieces. One, this body and the district has to have more engagement, whether it's through retreats and things like that, one. Two, there needs to be a shared understanding of what a quality seat is in the sector. And I've mentioned earlier, just as Reginald Streeter, former Eisenhower Fellow, we need policy cycles so that things that might have been okay with the sector 10 years ago may not be okay with the sector now. And I think once you do those things and you get everybody engaged to bake the cake, no one can say, I didn't like the flavor, right? We were all there together, lockstep. And not only did we do it once, we'll do it again in 5 years. We'll do it again in 5 years, or we'll do it again in 10 years. I think when you do that, you'll start to see the synergy, even though there's different mechanisms on both sides of accountability and things like that. But I think if we are all aligned on student achievement, student-centered approach, just because the tool is different doesn't mean it has to have a different outcome. So that's where, I think that's my answer to your question. Board members, nominees, please, I don't want to hog the mic. I heard you, Brother Phillips.
And while you're at that, right, I agree with what you're saying, right, but how do you ensure that there is no conflict, right? What can you do? What are some examples of that you believe, walking in as board members that have been there for a while, or new board members come in, and how do you ensure that there is no conflict, especially in the renewals or the non-renewals decisions?
Well, I think that what the Board of Education has tried to do is be more nuanced, even withholding our legal obligations. And I think our record over the last few years demonstrates that we are trying to be nuanced because we're thinking about it for students first. Two, we have the framework, right? And I know this, people are like, well, what is the framework? What is the framework? It is a way for us all to look at what's going on in a charter school. And I think what the board has tried to do is say, through a student-centered academic achievement, educate the whole child model, this is the tool that we're using. So I think that's how we do it. And I think I think what I heard is we have not done a good enough job communicating and being transparent about what things exist and what things ought to exist. And I think once we do that, I think we'll all start to have that shared language piece as well.
My last question. There was a situation in my district where a charter school provider became the manager of two of our schools, right? They're Alany and Stetson. I'm going to use them as examples. And while we saw performance of we saw a better performance in student attendance, in teacher attendance, in math and reading levels, the school district still chose to take those schools back under their management. We have seen a decline in both of those schools as a result of that. I believe that impacts negatively on student learning, on teachers' morale, and on the community in general, right? Because now families are trying to figure out what do they do. Those schools originally were considered some of the most dangerous, right? And they changed for the better and are now back to what they were prior. So how do we avoid situations like that impact communities and families?
And what I'll say, it is unfortunate that has occurred as well, but I think this is where the other side of that nickel matters. The reason why the charters were taken, from my understanding, I had just gotten the board because there were some issues with mismanagement of funds. So I think the onus is not only the Board of Education and the CSO to work with charter providers, because it's high stakes. We all got to dot our I's and cross our T's. And I think that because the stakes are so high, and there's certain things that the Board of Education at that time or even now can't look away from, we all have to do a better job leading up to when these decisions have to be made. Whether there have been warnings and attempts to try to work with the school and those things might have been ignored, that's the piece of the accountability piece that I think we've tried to implement, but we're so quiet about it. No one knows about the work that was done behind the scenes to try to really massage this stuff. Because if we are seen as not being good stewards of public dollars and allowing some of the financial mismanagement that occurred there, that can hurt us in Harrisburg, and that makes the whole city look bad, right? And I think that's the crux of being a board member in Philadelphia. You are an unelected board, duly said, which is fine because we have mayor, city council, but you have to make sure that I'm a financial steward of public dollars. I can't be seen as being willy-nilly with it because that's what's led to us losing local control. We don't want that to happen again. And but I also have to make sure these babies are okay, which is one of the reasons why the Board of Education was trying to interview with Mass Civics this year and try to compel them to find a new operator. And I heard 4 operators showed up through a process that isn't covered under the law that would have gave us the flexibility we needed to do the conditions that you mentioned earlier. So we're trying to use the tools that we have, but I think we all have a job here because it's about the babies. It's about students. And I think, unfortunately, they're the innocent bystanders of some of the stuff that's going on when all the adults need to get it together.
I appreciate that response. but you know, people, I'm sorry, I'll go in the next round. Thank you. Or can I? So the auditors general who said, who investigated this case said that there were no mismanagement of funds, right? So is that an example of the judge and the prosecutor? Is that one of those examples, or what is it? Because I'm just, and I'm new to this role, right? So I'm learning, I'm hearing from parents, I'm hearing from providers, I'm hearing from you on a regular basis. So I'm just trying to figure out, how do we eliminate that?
Well, in addition to this, it's not just the Board of Education, the CAB, which people have been said is adverse to the district and is, for whatever reason, affirmed us. So it's not just the Board of Education saying it. There was another statewide body that said that we see this as a problem, right? And so I think that's why I keep bringing in law. I'm a lawyer, right? I keep bringing back the law and the straitjacket sometimes that it gives us, but I'm compelled as a fiduciary when I take that oath to follow. And so I think that's, again, another example of we got to do a better job of telling the whole story, all of us, right? And I think when we do that, we'll have more shared language and shared understanding of what happened, and so this doesn't happen again, right? So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. The chair recognizes Councilmember O'Rourke. O'Rourke. He's new. Be a little patient with him.
Now, praise the Lord. All right, hello. Sorry, y'all, I forgot where I was at. Going back to my original questions around staffing, how do you think the school district can raise wages, create a better quality of life, incentivize retainment for our already existing teaching staff, and this is again towards the new members coming on? How are you thinking about that? The question is around raising wages, creating the conditions that will make sure that we're retaining good staff and good teachers in our schools. Just as we think about, losing teachers to the suburbs, other states, things like that, how are we thinking about ways that we're able to retain them?
Okay, a lot of that has to deal with funding, the funding that we get, because teachers need to be compensated for the jobs that they're doing, and it is hard out there. Part of what I've done throughout the state is get out into the community, get out into the schools, and see what's going on. Because if you don't see what's going on, you don't know what's happening. And it's difficult teaching, but you do need the funding for that. Another thing for retaining teachers, we used to have a program where new teachers had to have staff development a week before they went into the buildings in the summer. If they were hired during the year, they still went through staff development. And if they weren't certified but had a degree, because of a teacher shortage, they had to go through 3 to 4 days of staff development. But also, the coaches or supervisors would get out at least once every other week or once every month to help coach those brand new teachers so that they feel like they're important and feel comfortable teaching. And the coaches can see what's going on, see what's happening, and help guide them into being able to teach the children and to make sure that we drive instruction and that we get achievement through the teaching. Because some of it is teaching, but we have a lot of great teachers out there. We're all here. But then you have some that need help, and some of them are weaker. But it's the finance, and it's also they need to have some coaches that can be out there helping them to stay so we can continue to retain teachers.
Were you going to say things as well, please?
Testing?
Yes.
Our chief for professional learning has been doing really great work with building communities of practice and with doing PLCs, professional learning communities, across the district. And I used to work at the Philadelphia Academy of School Leaders, and School Leaders is an organization that convenes and chooses cohorts of principals into cohorts of about 20 to 25 principals at a time who support each other, who are experiencing similar things across district-managed charter and parochial schools, so it's sector agnostic, but they are all school leaders who see the same things, serving the same students, and it gave them a way to have shared experience and then also have professional learning together. And I do believe that being part of a community, being supported, having a mechanism where teachers develop their profession, develop their skill, and have people to lean back on, that helps. It's not the only thing, but it certainly helps.
Thank you. Yes, please.
One of the other things I wanted to add is that we have to make Philly attractive for teachers to come and work here, right? So when I think about that, I'm thinking about subsidized housing for teachers. I'm thinking about making parking accessible for teachers. I'm thinking about all those things. We have to make Philly attractive for people to want to come and work in Philly and not the suburbs. So what are we going to do to make Philly attractive?
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think under the great leadership of our new mayor, to make sure we make Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, greenest city with economic opportunity for all. We will attract more teachers here in the city of Philadelphia. Absolutely.
That I do believe that Philadelphia has a marketing problem. I think our mayor's campaign has done a great job in making sure that we have been clear, and we have to do the same thing with our school district in retaining and attracting teachers. We have to be proud of the school district, and we have to stop talking badly about it. And then we need to have teachers say, I want to work in that district. But if we keep saying that this is the worst district, that we don't have this and we don't have that, teachers will not want to work here. I was the principal and CEO of Pan American Academy Charter School, and I was tasked with having to hire 80% of our teachers. Not only needed to be certified, but they needed to be bilingual, and they needed to come from a Latin American country, either Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. And that was really hard to do. But we had clarity that we were going to pay our teachers, we were going to have incentives for them, and teachers need to be proud of where they work. And guess what? We had teachers of all nationalities, and it still exists if you want to see a great school and see it, but you have to be proud of where we are. So our job is to change how people are perceiving our school district. It is a beautiful, we live in the best city. We live in a beautiful city. We need to start saying that. Our children walk into schools where teachers work really hard, and we talk a lot about the teachers that are not doing a good job, but how about all of the teachers that are doing a great job? The same thing with our principals. How about all of the principals that are working 24/7 and have given their life for the district? We don't say that. So we need to start changing how we're speaking about the school district of Philadelphia and come up with a plan. Whoever helped Mayor Parker needs to help us, making sure that we have something clear, something precise, and let's do whatever we can to get the best and the brightest here in our district.
No, that's right. Feeling that energy.
Council Perez, I have one more. I know I taxed my time, but I have one more. I know this is the last round. Would you?
No, this is a very, very important issue. Go ahead, young man.
Thank you, Council President. And this is again, first, thank you all for those responses. That was wonderful. Again, to the new board appointees only, and this is it for me. Many of you have deep histories in the education landscape here within Philadelphia. Could you, mindful of time, could you detail the scenarios or organizations for which it would be a conflict of interest, this is an ethical question, for you to vote on a particular matter? What's your proactive strategy for recusing yourself when there is clearly a conflict of interest, something is a hot button issue? How do you go about doing that? Yes,
I
ma'am.
can give you a direct example. I'm a therapist in Philly. I have clients. There was one client that came up, and I had to make it known to our chief of staff, our legal department, the relationship, and I recused myself from the vote. So it's a real simple process, but we have to be honest, right? And let people know when it's something that might be a conflict of interest. So it's a real simple process. You just let it be known to legal, and then we recuse ourselves on the vote.
But Sarah Ashley, you were on the previous board, correct?
Yes.
This is really a question. No, you're fine. I appreciate the response, but particularly for the new appointees, for those that we have, and I don't want to tax my time too much longer, but could you just detail that for us for the record?
So I worked for the KIPP Philadelphia Public School Network between 2018 and 2022. I also sat on the board of Global Leadership Academy Southwest between August 23, and I'm in the process of resigning. I also am the CFO of the Children's Crisis Treatment Center that does receive some school district kids in one of our partial inpatient programs. And we have a small reimbursement contract with the district for the teacher we provide to those students while they're in our program. To Sarah's point, those are known in my application, they're now on the record, and if any business comes up, I will submit it to legal and go from there.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the collaborative of schools that I lead, our board, some of the board members run schools or run nonprofit organizations that may want to pursue contracts with the district. I've brought this up to the Mayor's Office of Education. You know, the board and we had a very clear discussion on exploring these conflict of interest issues, you know, associated with me being on the board, and I've been assured that I will be able to share any perception of conflict of interest, anything that I think may come up as an issue of conflict of interest with legal to help me navigate what that looks like.
Thank you very much. I think that's sufficient. I just wanted to make sure we got that on the record. I appreciate you, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cindy Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. How's everybody? So, thanks, Nina. So, just a couple of things. Number one, I do want to assure you that, you know, I caught all of the testimony today. I'm a little bit under the weather today, but I wanted to make sure I caught all of the testimony because I think it's very important. You know, these appointments that we're going to be making. And the one thing that I just wanted to say before I go into my actual question was around, you know, the way we speak about our schools and how important that is. And I could not agree with you more. I could not agree with the narrative that we put out. And listen, we're all cheerleaders. That's what we do down here. We cheerlead for districts and we cheerlead for the entire city. That's what we do. But at the same time, we also recognize that we have a constituency that to some degree, they don't want to hear it. Okay, they don't want to hear it when you're in a school with a 1.4% proficiency in math and an 8% proficiency in English. And those numbers have been the same pretty much since 2014, 2015. And so, you know, how do we address those particulars when we look at how our children are performing or not rising to the occasion? And through no fault of their own, I do want to say that. And I just want to be clear, I'm for schools that work. I'm for you know, the traditional public schools that work. I'm for non-traditional charter schools that work. I'm for schools that are going to be educating our children and providing the quality of education that means that they're not going to be stuck into a lifetime of you know, poverty and a lack of opportunity. You know, we talk about our mayor and how she wants economic opportunity for all. That starts with education. I mean, I'm just preaching to the choir. I know you all know this, but you know, like those are the kinds of things that we really have to be focused on. And so I wanted to go back to the school. I'm not going to say the name of it. I've mentioned it before, but I'm not going to say the name of it right now. But in my school, my district, there's a school that has it was a 0% proficiency in math and 8% proficiency in English, and that was in 2015, and a charter school provider, you know, offered to come in and take it over, and there was, you know, like pushback, and so the charter school provider walked away. And what happened between, you know, say 2015 and 2023, the last year of reporting, is that those numbers stayed the same. And so you had kids who started at kindergarten, went through 8th grade, or started in 1st grade, went through 8th grade, and we really locked them into a system that did not work. And this was a traditional public school. And so I'd like to know what kind of decisions are you all going to be making that's going to change that trajectory, because the decisions you make, I mean, I don't think of this as a one and done, where we're going to make appointments and then, we're kind of stuck with each other for the next, until the next time comes around for us to make more appointments, because the decisions that you make around the school districts will inform and affect the decisions that we make around the school district. So I'd like to hear from you all about how we're going to address matters like this and make sure that we're not locking our kids in to something that's not working. So it's easy to, say, well, this model of school doesn't work, these models don't work, but we have our own situations right here in the school district, and I'd like to know, what are we going to do to make sure that they work for every student, no matter what school you're in?
Okay. I think goals and guardrails, and I know I keep saying it, and you're like, well, okay, all right, we get it, but Councilmember Bass, actually my council member.
Yes.
For the district that I'm happy to live in Germantown, I think goals and guardrails, when did it come into be? Joyce, what year? 2019, 2020, goals and guardrails during the pandemic. The goals and guardrails, again, is what we're doing. We are looking at that data, and we're asking the superintendent whenever, and progress monitor, whenever that indicator comes up, what are the trends, what's happening, and we're also going deeper now into the data. Mm-hmm. What about Black children? What about brown children? What about our children who have exceptional needs, right? Mm-hmm. Our special education population. We are asking that question from a governance perspective to drive the change that you were talking about. One of the things that I've heard from Joyce Wilkerson earlier on was that she was so flabbergasted when they were asked the question, why does public education exist? And she said the board at that moment, went fresh off back in local control, said everything else but to educate children. That's what Goals and Guardrails does. And what the board has tried to do for the whole sector of public education is use the framework to drive academic achievement as well. That domain matters to us. So, and I do believe we see trends going up, and you're right, we're not patting ourselves on the back. We got a long way to go, but we're also changing culture too, right? And we all know that institutions, it takes a minute to change that culture, so that's the response.
So I would say that we've been at this since 2019, and a school that, has seen, in my opinion, really no improvement, to go from 0 to 1%, and listen, people are seeing our schools as an investment. Where we have high-performing schools, people do anything to move into a catchment area. And where you have schools that are not high-performing and, are struggling like this one, people are just, like, we'll take it if we have to. We don't have a choice. There's no other options for us. And no one wants that. No one wants to feel there's no other option for their child. No one wants to feel like their child is, a test case, and maybe Goals and Guardrails will work. I mean, listen, this is not a test case. This is my little one, right? There ain't no test case. We want our children to be educated. We want them to be, receive the quality of education that you get if you cross any one of our city lines. And I don't know that Goals and Guardrails is doing it. I'm just, I don't know that it's doing it.
Tess.
Yes.
Let me say that I have the privilege of choosing a school. I have the privilege of choosing a school for my daughter, not because there was anything or to choose a different school other than my neighborhood school, not because there was anything lacking at all in academic achievement. In fact, they're one of the best achieving schools in our city. And not because there was anything wrong in terms of safety or culture or anything like that. I had the privilege of choosing a different school for my child because of what I wanted for her and for her education. And I think that that is so important for our families, and particularly for the families that don't have the privilege of how I got to choose a school for my child. And so what I will tell you is, in terms of what does the Board of Education do in scenarios where schools are not moving? Right now, Dr. Watlington's plan
his Accelerate Affiliate Plan is addressing that. And we're pushing to make sure that he's successful and has what he needs to address it. In terms of how do we weigh the decision when there is a potential other school that a child can go to, that a parent might want their child to go to, how do we make that decision? I always look at the catchment areas that charter draws from and compare the data of what the other schools look like.
So let me just say this real quick. Just really quickly, the privilege that you just spoke about, the privilege that you have is the privilege that every single parent in the school district of Philadelphia wants, to be able to make a decision for their child, where their child's going to go, that they can receive the same quality of education. And assuming that you will be confirmed, just assuming, but that you will be confirmed, when we have our next go-around, the next conversation that we have, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever, that's going to be my question to all of you, is what have you done with the privilege that you all have to make sure that everyone has access to that same level of privilege? So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilmember Bass. Chair recognizes Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson. I'm sorry, Majority Leader. Councilmember Bass, were you done? I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I'm done.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I just seen you look. I didn't want to cut you off. Chair recognizes Councilmember, Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And in the interest of time and thinking about those who have signed up to give testimony and being respectful of all of your time, I just wanted to list some of the matters and issues that are important to me that I'll be focusing on moving forward. And so obviously the School Finder app, something I've been talking about for 4 years, that we're trying to work with the district on to ensure that we are getting our young people to their closest local public school and then giving them their additional options, okay? In addition to that, career and technical education, particularly ensuring that we are able to expand our CTE programs with schools like Mayfair CTE, where we have the only middle school CTE program. Mr. Evan Jarrett, he's doing a phenomenal job with our young people. So definitely want to lift up more middle school CTE programs and early career exposure for our younger students. In addition to that, driver's ed for our CTE students, one impediment we find when seeking to connect them with opportunities in construction trades and in the building trades is they are not able to take the opportunity because they lack a driver's license, okay? Lastly, mention two things. One is a dream, a building trades high school in the city of Philadelphia, a high school that solely focuses on the skilled trades and preparing our young people for jobs in labor. And finally, of course, infrastructure, ensuring that we have adequate infrastructure in school buildings to support the work that our young people will do in the 21st century. Lastly, I will say, again, that I'm certainly very appreciative of the time that you all have extended. I look forward to continuing to work with you and ask that we have continued partnership for all members of council. I know that Chairman Thomas and members of the Education Committee meet with you all quite frequently, but we want to engage with you all on a more regular basis. And I know we've had the opportunity to visit some schools and we've done some breakfast meetings and other things, but we want to ensure that we're able to engage with you all as a full body more frequently so that we're all on the same page and rowing in the same direction, which is ensuring the success of our young people and our children. We all want the best for our kids. We all want to get to that same goal, and we have to work together in order to get there. So thank you very much, and thank you to all of those who are here to testify, which is why I will hold the balance of my questions for the school district budget hearings that are forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I definitely agree with you around driver's ed, and Mr. Jarrett is somebody who we had in City Council. We honored him in this Dope Student podcast, and that's a great school that's in Councilmember Driscoll's district, all great points. Chair recognizes Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, like my colleague, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, would like to leave you with a homework assignment for which there will be a quiz when you come back for budget. And the first, it's 7 subjects that I care about. Let me start with Overbrook High School, which although Catherine Gilmore Richardson had the honor of making girls, she taught at Overbrook High School and loved those students so much that she developed lifelong relationships with them. So we have started a plan. I didn't want to say it in front of Chairman Isaiah Thomas, that we work with them, and they're working on a modest to aggressive plan for Overbrook, and we thank you for Cassidy, which is 1 or 2 brand new stick-built schools, and one of them is in the 4th district. So the first one is Overbrook. That will be an extra credit grade for you. The second one is to reduce the dropout rate in those 19 zip codes that occupy 90% of the inmates on State Road. If you reduce the dropout rate by 10% a year, corresponding dropout rates will reduce crime rates. So that's subject number 2. Number 3, I'd like you to increase the school to paycheck pipeline. You did a great job with the facilities, vehicle facilities piece, working with Randolph. We have 5,000 jobs that we could name right now that we could grow the inhabitants right out of school. Everybody's not going to college, but that municipal college that the mayor is talking about is an intriguing proposition that will be something we will grade you on. We'd like you to reduce the friction between the recreation department and you guys on facilities fees. Like some of our nonprofits, I'm a track coach by nature. I'll be at the Penn Relays next week. But we charge some of the nonprofit groups designed to reduce gun violence $5,000 to use a track that they already paid for. So we have to work that out. If it means President Johnson puts a little more in your budget, so be it. The other subject, I'm liberal with his money, right? We'd like to get that facilities plan that Member Thomas wants, but it should be juxtaposed with the right sizing plan that says if you have more population here, you need more facilities corresponding, and we need a plan so that we can appropriate correctly. And what else? Oh, how many was it? I went to public school. On 6. Examine creative programs like Overbrook works with the Mann Center, who works with Live Nation. We put a $2.5 million studio in there, and those young people now are getting internships with Live Nation, like a real job at the end of the rainbow kind of thing, and doing the things that they love: writing, producing, acting, scripting, building stages that are industry certified. We need more of that. And if we can do those things and we can give you a grade on those things, I will ask these exact same questions. I might allow you to self-grade your own test, but we will hold you accountable for those answers. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Majority Leader Richardson.
Yeah, and very quickly to Councilmember Jones's point, the young man who runs.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
The young man who runs the Live Nation Urban Program is a graduate of Masterman High School with Overbrook High School. And so it shows you the talent of our young people and talent we're producing in the school district. And we're committed to Overbrook High School, Councilmember Jones. Thank you.
Sound like a Winfield thing to me. That's what's up. The chair recognizes Councilmember Nina Ahmad.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to echo what my colleague said about amazing students that come out of the school district. I happened to visit Lankana High School and was completely blown away with their presentation. They were about to go to a national conference, and it was just very heartwarming. I had a few students from Sankofa visit my office, and we had real spirited, engaged debates around reproductive freedom. The other young man was about, cancer research. And these are Philadelphians. And so kudos to our school district. I know we have work to do. I know we have to improve our proficiencies, but we need to work together to figure out which direction we need to go. My question is for Joan Stern, if she's still here. I can't quite see her from where I am. She's still here, right? Given your public finance expertise, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions around school funding from the state, and then a question about the facilities and sort of, floating bonds around that issue. But the first question is about, is this board going to be actively engaged in advocating for those dollars from the state to come as mandated by our Commonwealth Court? I know there's been some recommendations from the School Funding Commission. I wondered, where are you going with that in order for Philadelphia, first of all, to get it in time, and I think the governor's budget, 2025 budget, has some money set aside. I wondered what the role of the school board is going to be in advocating for that. That's the first question.
Well, I wouldn't have asked to join the board if I didn't want us and the mayor and city council to sing one song to Harrisburg. We have more schools in our county than any other county in our Commonwealth. I can tell you that when I began representing the school district in the 70s, we had no market access, and we were not eligible for state capital funding because we were not building new school buildings. We were renovating the buildings that we owned. So it took quite an effort to persuade the legislature to amend the Plan-Con rules and to allow school districts of the first class, ours is the only one, to get state funding. It's been a constant struggle. For the first time in my 50 years of working with the school district, we got federal grants, which we have used to build new schools in the district. The first time we have ever received funding, to my knowledge, to build new schools that we didn't have to pay back. So I will do my best to persuade my colleagues, and I don't think it will take much for me to persuade them, and to persuade all of you and the mayor, who's already cheerleading for this, for us to go to every government funder, federal, state, local, and persuade investment in 21st century buildings for our children.
Thank you. I look forward to being a part of that team doing this, because we have no option. We are a city of eds and meds, and our children are not ready to get those jobs. If you're not reading at grade level, that's not going to happen. If you don't do math, it's not going to happen. So we have to push very hard for this to make sure that with the state with a surplus of $14 billion, needs to make room, in addition to the formula funding that they're going to give us, to make sure, because we drive the economy of the state, and so we need a commensurate return, especially invested in our schools. So count me in as your
We're going to
champion.
sign you up.
Yes. Yes, and then I had the follow-up question. You mentioned capital expenditure. Because we're probably going to have to do a lot of new schools, some of these are not going to be able to be saved. Does the school board look, I know you haven't started yet, I understand that, but you have a lot of experience. Are we going to be looking at putting a plan forward, which again will have a buy-in from state, federal, and any philanthropic entities to create enough resources to do that? And we would love, as you know, Council Member, our Chairman Isaiah Thomas has said, a real plan around that issue.
Yes, and I just want to add something to put context to our facilities. We have some beautiful facilities too, right?
Yes, I've seen
And
them.
some of our facilities, it is a mixed bag, and I think that is the byproduct of uneven funding, or being $1.4 billion right now underfunded, $1.4 billion. And I've actually done a little research on this. When immigrants moved into Philadelphia, a little history lesson in Philadelphia, there was a marked change in who was sending their children to public education because they didn't want to go to school with Irish immigrants. They didn't want to go to school with Italians, right? And I actually saw that the superintendent and the board at that time sought to get the political wherewithal for the school district to get the bonds necessary to do the work on facilities. This is not a 10-year issue, y'all. This is like a 100-year issue. I'm sorry, 100, the Germantown coming out. So that's part of framing for us. But we have some beautiful edifices of learning, and we have newer buildings. And so our whole portfolio isn't dilapidated, falling apart, but we do have issues. And I think that me putting that context out there makes this even a more doable exercise, right? It's not all 212 schools. Right. It's not. It's a subset of a subset. And I think that I just want to posit that in this chamber to invigorate everybody to say, this can get done, and every school in Philadelphia isn't, dilapidated. And I'll leave it there.
And we need a plan for it. I mean,
yes, ma'am.
It's great that you're saying that. We need numbers, we need dates, we need when, because then it gives us confidence to tell our constituents, yes, the ones that need work will get work done, and we haven't had that yet. And as our chairman said, he's asked for it in 2022, so this is 2024. And so, we're all nice and good, but we need actual concrete things to come through. And I thank you all for, taking all this in your stride. I know we've been hypercritical at times, but this is the only forum we have. So this is why what you said about having ongoing relationships, doing a retreat or whatever it takes for us to be on board so we don't have to wait till now to do this. So I thank you for your time, all of you, and thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Surely all the schools aren't the same, because I just had a budget town hall at MLK High School in the Northwest, the great old Northwest. It does not look like South Philadelphia High Auditorium. Very different experience, and so yes, we do have some good schools out there with some very, very nice facilities, and so we want to accentuate and highlight some of the good ones. At this time, I want to acknowledge Councilmember Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. So while I'm new, unlike some of my other newer colleagues, I actually was here last budget and last time that we had conversations. And just for a point of information, we did ask for you guys to come up with a facilities plan for when the money comes from the governor's office. So, just like to stress on how important it is to be prepared so that when the money comes, we're able to start right away on building new schools or fixing the schools that we got. But that's not my questions. My question has to do with children who are English as a second language. We're having we are a sanctuary city, and we are taking in different nationalities all the time, which is great. That's what we're about. But we still have to give them an equal opportunity, as our mayor said. So how are we dealing with getting more bilingual teachers? Well, first, do we have enough bilingual teachers? And secondly, what are we doing to try to recruit more bilingual teachers?
Thank you for that question. We have approximately 20% of our students who are English language learners, and that number is growing.
It's going to keep growing.
And oftentimes, English language learners within our system, and particularly the families that they are from, for whom the home language is not English, that number gets masked because as soon as English language learners achieve a certain level of proficiency, they're no longer counted in that 20%. So the school district has bilingual counseling assistants, and the bilingual counseling assistants are allocated to schools based on the populations that are there. So a school that I was recently at has bilingual counseling assistants in Spanish, in Mandarin, in Cantonese, in 2 other languages, I think, and we have bilingual counseling assistants. We're needing to hire more and more bilingual counseling assistants in Portuguese, which is one of our highest, fastest growing populations and needs. I don't believe that we have enough bilingual counseling assistants to support all of our families, and we have restructured the way in which we are offering supports so that supports can be more streamlined and coming out of the same office for supports to the student as well as supports to the families.
So with that being said, so when they get to a certain level of knowledge of the English language, then they're no longer considered the bilingual. That's kind of...
They're no longer English learners, and they no longer show up in our data as English learners.
How much time does it take, on average, do you think that, is it a year, 2 years before they're, 3 years before they're ready to be done with the counselors for the bilingual? And is that actually feasible? Are they actually able to understand the language enough to succeed, in order to pass their grades? Because in my own experience, I know a lot of people who are English as a second language, and while they speak very good English, they don't understand all of it. You understand, you know what I'm trying to get at?
Absolutely. The supports do need to be there, not just for the students, but for their families as well, who will help in supporting a lot of the decisions that we expect families to be able to support and be engaged in.
Like I said earlier, I seem to do math, and for somebody that's speaking English his whole life, it's still a little crazy for me. So, I would love to see what we could do about actually fitting more in and maybe giving them more time, because I'm completely vested in the mayor's vision of equal opportunities for all, because that's what we are about here in Philadelphia. And since our population of new citizens is growing, I'm glad to hear that you're looking at it and you're able to grow with it. It's all it's about, is being able to grow with what we have going on, right? But I also know that you have to work with what you got. And, sometimes that's just not enough, right? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes for last question, Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really quick, can you tell us what the board's role is in developing policies that allow outside organizations to use school facilities or to come in to help provide additional services to children in those schools?
The board's role is through our policy powers. As you know, that's one of the powers that's outlined in the law, one of the levers that we pull. We have a policy cycle where the co-chair, who's right now Chow Wing Lam, and the other co-chair is Joyce Wilkerson. There's policies that come up for reconsideration as well, but that's not the only mechanism. The superintendent of the School District of Philadelphia, as long as a policy is silent on something or gives them autonomy, can implement administrative procedures. And usually that work happens in consultation with the policy committee work, but he convenes students, he convenes parents, he convenes individuals to let him know what he needs to know. And then there's a policy hearing that's public, of which you all are free to come to as well, to voice your concerns or support something that we're doing and putting on the record. And then the policy comes up multiple times, and then eventually the full board votes on it, and then it becomes a policy. But that's the process. But I think Co-Chair Chow Wing Lam wants to add something.
I think your specific question was about use of facilities for supportive and enrichment activities.
Yes.
And it is absolutely the board's role and acted through the policy committee to determine whether or not and under what guardrails to allow such use. Typically, there are administrative procedures that accompany policies, and that helps to guideline or helps to define the district's role in allowing that policy to happen. So for instance, in the example that you mentioned, the district would also have to determine what level of staffing needs to be involved to make that facility available, what are the hours that the folks would need to work, what kind of memorandum of agreement would need to be made in order to ensure that there's clarity on how the facility is being used, but certainly we can take a look at it as a board.
Thank you. I only asked that question because I think that we are, with our education system as well as other things, we're in a state of emergency, and I think we need an all-hands-on-deck approach. And so we have outside organizations that are willing to come, lend their time to our schools to enhance the quality of education, to help educate the entire child. I think we need to make it a little bit easier for some of those organizations to come in to help, turn around some of those schools and provide those opportunities to our students. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. As we wrap up, just one last question. So, Mr. Streeter, as we move forward, in the event that nomination goes through, voted, your peers vote you again as chairperson, how do you want elected officials to engage with the board when we're coming to advocate as it relates to school issues in our district? In the past, and this is based upon I have to represent my members, think that sometimes when they have come down, things come across a little adversarial between the chair and the members. Other elected officials as well felt that they come down and everybody get passionate, but we all professional the same way, so nobody should walk away feeling like, there was something improper about advocating. In classic example, and I haven't been in front of the board under your administration, but I'm responsible for helping save E.M. Stanton, South Philadelphia. They wanted to shut E.M. Stanton down at one time, build condos. I worked with the Goldenberg Group, come in, do a public-private partnership, come down to the district, came down to the board, advocated, and that was it. And so just for members of this body, right, because it's been mentioned in several different times, I just want to go on the record so we all can be professional. Folks don't feel like because they're advocating, there's anything improper or some type of undue influence we're trying to do other than just coming down there and advocating for our schools. So give us, from your perspective, how would you like for us to engage so it could be a cooperative relationship?
Well, thank you for opening the door. I actually want to address something on the record, and this is a point of growth that I had. And there was a legislator who came early, I think it was my first action meeting chairing, or my second action meeting chairing, and there was an exchange, and I'm not proud of it. I believe I have learned from that, and that event did not occur again. And I actually went out to lunch with that individual, and we broke bread, we talked it up. I had to, eat some crow, and it is what it is. That's part of this process. I apologized, and we kept it moving. And then later on, I was able to work with that same legislator offline to talk about a very tough issue that was very successful. So that's my style of my leadership. I'm a human, right? And I'll read and I'll react. As it relates to any assertions that the Board of Education has not been welcoming, I will say that we have. And so, for example, there was a very tough vote that we had to take in February where three of our amazing legislators, some council members in the legislature came down, and I actually used chair's privilege in the board. I actually checked with the board, and okay, this is a city council member. I'm going to amend the process and let the city council member, not even give him the floor to speak. I think my actions speak louder than words, but I also heard that there was some angst about maybe something I might have said on the record. I think I've coordinated, I feel like I've triangulated what it was. I actually have the transcript of the meeting of the portion that it was. I was not talking about your city council president. I was talking about the independence of a charter board and why I was making the decision I was making. I was not talking about the independence of the Board of Education. We are part of the process. We want to be hand in glove as much as possible while also ensuring that we maintain our fiduciary duties. So thank you, sir, for my business.
Thank you. And look forward to doing that retreat in the future. And so Jim Hardy said he's going to help write the budget for also making sure we get them counselors in them schools. And so I back your play. And we talked about Chair of Appropriations. He's not here right now, but nevertheless, make that. Well, we have our vice chair here, so Miss Moneybags. But anyway, you know that budget inside out. It was a good day today. So we want to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule. Listen, you're not getting paid to do this. You're signing up, and we recognize that. And so the questions that we asked from, I guess, whatever time we started the day, like 11:15, 11:20 to 5:19, it's just because at the end of the day, we're very, very passionate about these children here in the city of Philadelphia. Most of us, we semi-professional, and you know, some of us got kids in the district, some of us got kids in private school, right? We probably slight middle income and so forth based upon our professions and the work that we do. But there's a population of people out there, right, that don't have lobbyists walking the halls of city council, don't have lobbyists walking the halls of our state house, don't have lobbyists in Congress. And so we're the last line of defense to advocate on their behalf. And so when we take these lines of questioning, there's nothing personal about any of it, right? It's just a passion and commitment to represent the people who actually sent us here in the first place. So we thank you all for taking time out of your schedule and being here today. Look forward to working with you. And now we would like to call up public comment, individuals who are here from the public to actually talk about this process and their issues and concerns. At this time, we have public comment concerning the address resolutions that we have heard thus far today. All speakers must sign up in order to testify. You have not already signed up for today's session. Please do so by now by giving your name at the table outside the rails to my left to Mr. Stefan Johnson. Once you have signed up, you will be called in the order in which your name appears on the sign-up sheet. Public commenters will be given 1 minute to speak based upon the value of this sheet. Once the time has passed, we want you to yield the podium to the next speaker if you have not done so already. And I will work with you on time based upon who showed up and who didn't show up on this public commenter list. And so, you want to run the clock? Okay.
Okay, we will now proceed with public comment. The chair now recognizes Lisa Haver.
Good evening. My name is Lisa.
Pardon me,
Excuse me?
prior to beginning, I apologize for the interruption. For all those who are here to give public comment, please limit your comments to a minute and a half if possible. Okay, and summarize your testimony if possible, as much as possible. We're trying to hear from every single person on this list. And we appreciate you being here. We thank you for the time you've extended all day. Please get all your remarks in, but we do want to accommodate every single person that's on this list, front and back, okay? So Lisa Haver, please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Haver. I'm a member of the Grassroots Alliance for Philadelphia Public Schools. I taught in Philadelphia's public schools and now advocate for public schools to remain in public control today. We are near the end of a process in which the public has been shut out almost completely. We have had no say in who serves on the Board of Education, the governing body that oversees a $4.5 billion budget and makes decisions that affect school children and their families and communities. There was minimal notice of the convening of the nominating panel in February. There was no public testimony taken at that first panel meeting. In fact, when I asked to be heard, I was silenced. The panel, in violation of the PA Sunshine Act, conducted all of its business in executive session. The panel did not release the names of the applicants, so there's no way for any parent, student, or educator to speak out for or against any potential nominee. This hearing is being held at a time when teachers, students, and most parents are not able to attend. We did try to meet with council members, and I do thank those council members who did listen to me when I approached them. But it seems that some people were heard, those with a more financial interest in public schools, those who seem to want to go back to the days of state control and the School Reform Commission when neighborhood public schools were closed and replaced by privately managed charter schools. The richest man in Pennsylvania is Jeffrey Yass. He does not live in the city, but he has had, by virtue of his wealth and political connections, a lot of influence on the city schools. He's a political and financial supporter of Donald Trump and other right-wing Republicans. Yass has poured a lot of money into supporting the privatization of public schools and into the campaigns of elected officials who support that. At the same time public was shut out, the dark money forces moved in. As a member of APS, I've been a critic of the actions of the board on many occasions. Council members should understand that council members should understand that board members who vote against any new charter application are simply being fiscally responsible. I did send copies of our APS report to some council members that shows that over half of the city's charter schools are under-enrolled. Years of data shows that charter schools have consistently performed below district schools. I'm sorry. Okay. I won't. Okay. Did you ask me to summarize or? Okay. The vote is in your hands. Make your decision based on what is best for the city's children, not on what will make Jeffrey Yass and his beneficiaries happy. Thank you very much.
Yep, there we go. Okay, next witness we have is Coleman Poses. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Coleman Poses. Dear members of City Council, thank you for the opportunity of speaking with you today. Based upon the recent calculations from the state's Basic Education Funding Commission and Governor Shapiro's 24-25 budget proposals, the state of Pennsylvania shortchanges Philadelphia schools by over $1 billion annually. The problem of lack of revenue has only been compounded by excessive expenses associated with the maintenance of the charter school system in the maintenance of the charter school system in the district due to the directives that exist within this current state charter law. Philadelphia is not alone in this problem. Nearly 470 elected school boards in Pennsylvania, almost 90% of all the school boards in the Commonwealth, have signed onto a resolution calling on the General Assembly to enact meaningful charter reform that would rectify many of the extreme financial burdens charter schools have placed on the district. But the law has been deficient in other ways. The law allows for a rather long and convoluted charter revocation process where underperforming schools continue to run while the district spends exorbitant amounts of money to defend its intention to close them. Poorly performing charter schools therefore continue to operate within this system. There are also data that indicate how the law has affected our state. A recent report of the National Assessment of Educational Progress underscores Pennsylvania's problems by finding the Commonwealth's charters to be close to the bottom in reading and math scores of the 36 states included in this study. I therefore come here today to ask you to only confirm school board nominees who will deny all new charter applications until the state law demands more accountability, transparency, and reimbursement only for services provided for these schools, and the School District of Philadelphia is properly funded. Regardless of what your feelings are about school choice, does it make sense for the school board to approve new charters with money that the district frankly does not have? The district to that, the answer to that question may very well dwell in this room. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Linda Rubin.
Linda? This isn't right. I just need to say that. This isn't right. Hello, my name is Linda Rubin. I'm a product of Philadelphia Public Schools. I worked... Can I start over? Hello, my name is Linda Rubin. I'm a product of Philadelphia Public Schools. I worked in the district for 41 years, 3 years as a teacher at Walton Elementary, 27th and Huntington, where I had student taught, 38 years as a K-8 counselor in D.N. Fell Elementary School in South Philadelphia. I am passionate about children, their families, and supporting them. I was a member of Mothers in Charge for 5 years, in support of mothers of murdered children. I worked with other groups on anti-violence, including with Council Member Johnson. As a counselor, no, I'm going to slip that. There are so many private interests out there that want district money and make promises that don't work out. On February 1st, Chalkbait had an article, Philadelphia Tax Break Program fails to deliver benefits to students. Big sums of money were lost just because that didn't happen. Privately run charter schools are another example of dollars leaving the district schools, as they keep returning for more and more schools but don't accept the board's oversight. Many are under-enrolled. Most charters are approved and reapproved. School board members have to keep all of that intact to be fiscally responsible. I've just heard a disturbing piece in the Inquirer about a move to deny retention of Reginald Streeter and Joyce Wilkerson. I can only assume that's because they have both followed their jobs to do due diligence on charter renewals, creations of new charters. The board's job to oversee charters, their practices, and how children are learning. Charters are not in a vacuum. There are 217 district schools for whom the board is responsible. If, in addition to overseeing 85 charters, the board is responsible for district students who also deserve an education. That is something that the board must take into account, as well as the status of existing charter progress. If the article is correct and there is a move to deny seasoned board members Joyce Wilkerson and Reginald Streeter's retention, that sounds personally not educating. I hope this council will be complying with all restraints on them. I hope that this council will not bend to this pressure and for two board members doing their jobs with all competing restraints that they have on them. Thank you.
The chair now recognizes Dr. Cassandra St. Ville.
Anybody have written testimony, you can always send it to the secretary.
Dr. St. Ville had to go for her daughter, but if I'll leave testimony on her behalf.
Sure, and I'd also like to ask all the witnesses, if you have written testimony that you'd like to submit for the record, please do so. Okay. Dr. Cassandra St. Gill had to depart? Okay, thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Corey Henson. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Corey Henson.
Honorable members of this council of the great city of Philadelphia, I stand before you today with a deep sense of pride and conviction as I advocate for the confirmation of current board president Reginald Streeter to continue serving on the Board of Education and to be reelected as its president. I do so not only as an affiliated stakeholder of this city's public school system, but also as someone who has witnessed firsthand the transformative impact that he has had on our education in our communities. Reginald embodies the essence of servant leadership in every facet of his work. His character exudes humility, integrity, and a deep-seated commitment to uplifting our youth. Through countless hours of dedicated service, he has demonstrated a steadfast resolve to prioritize the needs of children above all else. His leadership style is not about commanding authority, but about serving with empathy, compassion, and a genuine desire to effect positive change. Under his leadership, alongside the board and the superintendent, Reginald has demonstrated an exceptional ability to navigate complex issues and contentious issues with grace and efficacy. From addressing challenges of educational operation to ensuring the board's practices are grounded in fact and law, he has consistently prioritized student-centered approach to decision-making. Perhaps most important to note, Reginald has with the working assistance of Superintendent Wallington, has systematically delivered results where it mattered most, in student achievement. Under his leadership, 13 of the 17 student achievement indicators are on the rise, a testament of his effective stewardship of our educational resources and unwavering dedication to the success of every student in Philadelphia. Honorable members of this council, you have the power today to commit to the further transcendence of our systematic educational future. I urge you to confirm Reginald's continuing service on the Board of Education and to re-elect him as its president. Confirming him is not just a vote of confidence, but it is a commitment to excellence, equity, and the limitless potential of every child in our city. His track record of achievement, his dedication to our community, and his embodiment of values make him the ideal candidate to lead our educational system into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no better choice than Reginald Streeter to serve this city and its children through the avenue of service on the Philadelphia Board of Education. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Marquita Ross. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Marquita Ross. Greetings, honorable members of the Philadelphia City Council. Today, you have a historic opportunity to approve non-school board members who will do right by our children. Your decision will directly impact our families now and for years to come. What we are asking for is simple. What we're asking is that each one of the non-school board members will treat charter schools fairly, which has not always been true of the current school board. With your vote, you have the power to change that. Again, my name is Marquita Ross. I not only serve on the Mastery Charter School Board, but I'm also a part of the Parent Action Team. I'm here today to stand on behalf of 12,000 families whose children attend Mastery schools. These public charter schools are some are Renaissance charter schools, which means that prior to the Mastery turnaround, they were some of the lowest performing schools in the city, mostly under-enrolled as families were opting out of attending their neighborhood schools. Not anymore. Mastery School serves all children, including many who have special needs. Our children are learning and thriving in our schools and community anchors. We are filled with hope for the future. This is not an abstraction for me. This is my reality. I have 7 children, 5 sons and 2 daughters. I have witnessed firsthand the positive transformation at Cleveland Elementary and Simon Gratz when they became Mastery Renaissance charters. My daughter was floundering in school and they soared. Having a choice of a good school to send your child is fundamental. It has been a right denied for too long. Too many black and brown families, especially in lower income neighborhoods.
Ms. Ross,
charters,
please summarize your testimony.
Okay. Charters are providing access and equity, values I believe you all hold dear. We're delighted that Mayor Parker, is calling for an end to this versus us and them. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can submit your testimony for the record if you like. The chair now recognizes Ashley Redfern. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Next up will be Lawrence Jones.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having us here today. I'm very encouraged at the idea of One Philadelphia, One Voice, and I'm encouraged by the thoughtful questioning of City Council. As the CEO of American Paradigm Schools, a nonprofit charter management organization that serves 4,200 students and employs over 500 staff members in the city, we are excited to work with whatever board the council recommends, and we will roll up our sleeves next to the new nominees and any returning nominees and work side by side. We share concerns, however, that the conditions of having been exposed, all of us, public traditional schools, public charter schools, to unfair funding has placed us in a situation where we are pitted against each other for scarce resources. I'm also concerned, and our organization is, about the crisis in public safety, the teacher pipeline, and post-COVID needs. All of these things have changed how we understand our student data, yet the metrics by which charter schools are judged have not altered since that time. In May of 2023, we became very confused as we were emerging from COVID when unexpectedly going through the renewal process, Memphis Street Academy was invoked our surrender clause by the school board. We did not know before the public meeting that this was happening. We had proceeded in a renewal process. I agree that communication could help ease some of the struggles we're having. I agree that if our teachers had communication ahead of time, we wouldn't have lost some quality teachers for students that are still in the district. I encourage you all to really take seriously coming together. That's more than just saying it. It's going to be hard work. There are issues in the metrics that we need to be aware of and come together. There's issues of inequity in how we look at the SPRE, goals and guardrails, versus the ACE framework, charter school renewal. One is supportive.
Ms. Redfern, please summarize your testimony.
Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Lawrence Jones. Lawrence Jones, Jr. And Dr. Naomi Booker, you are next. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Lawrence Jones. I'm here to talk about the process of evaluation in the school board. And so we have two types of racism. When you have intentional racism against an individual, that is often hard to prove, and it's also a very bad thing, but it's easy to be fixed because you get rid of the bad actor and the behavior stops. But systemic racism and systemic bias are significantly different things. They're like a virus that eat away at a community, at an organization, and at the people it serves. When the ballot SPAR report came out, it identified that there was no intentional acts of racism, and this school board took that as a victory lap. But they minimized the fact that there was systemic bias. And one of the biggest areas of that bias was the framework that you consistently have heard this board today talk about. It's an answer to many of the questions that you have asked. The fact of the matter is that report said that the framework is disproportionately impactful to black schools and standalone schools. It specifically said that with regards to the domain of organizational compliance, it is not fair. And from 2016 to 2022, there were 13 schools that got a does not meet standard on organizational compliance according to the framework. 12 of the 13 were black. In addition, we have a national report that says frameworks like the ones that are continually being used by the district, that they told you today they are standing behind, are disproportionately disparate to black folks and standalone charter schools. This is systemic racism. And if you're going to sit back and support this school board, you've got to put something in place to make sure that we can work together to come up with a form of evaluation where we can all be confident in it. And that's all we're asking for. And it would also be great if somebody would stand up and say, we did wrong, we'll do better, but I have never heard that. Kind of feels like slavery and COINTELPRO and everything else. We just want an apology and acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Dr. Naomi Booker. Please proceed with your testimony. State your name for the record. Next up will be Kiara Wesley.
Okay, good evening.
My name is Dr. Naomi Johnson Booker. I am a retired educator from the Philadelphia School District, having served for 30 years, and now as a charter school leader serving for the last 17 years. I have a number of awards, and I served also, when I left the district, I was a principal, and then I became a regional superintendent /grad cluster leader. And one of my most greatest prides of awards is that City Council named me as one of the living legends. So here I stand with you today to talk about 200,000 children in the city of Philadelphia, of which more than 70,000 belong to charter schools. And there are things that I want to say to you that you need to know and that we need to understand. And that is that, yes, I tried to get a high school for the last 3 years. Yes, my parents wanted to get it, and no, it was denied again. But I want to say that for that, our children certainly were not able to reach those high schools they needed to go. I heard today where they were talking about Masterman and Girls High and Central, but I did not hear what they were talking about Overbrook and West Philly and Bartram and those schools that do not have a decent graduation rate. I want to say that also public schools public charter schools are public schools, and that we use the same tax dollars as public schools, and parents are given a choice, and we do not have the right to take the choice away from them. I have some 45 children returning from the South right now as we went to a civil rights tour. And at that tour, during that tour, we told them to please take your voice and use your voice. Well, this is what we're trying to do now. We here in the charter school community need a school board that values charter schools. We need a school board that will agree to overhaul a system. I heard someone talk about professional learning communities. I've never been to it, never heard about it at the charter office. I also heard someone talk about growth and not knowing the growth. Well, 21% of the district last year showed growth, and this year was down to 15%. Global Leadership Academy showed 100% growth in reading and 85% in math. We need the school board to commit to growing seats in high-demand charter schools and allowing new schools with innovative community-driven models.
Please summarize your testimony.
Let me just say this.
Yes, ma'am.
Charter schools are tired of being at the back of the bus, and we need to be right alongside. We need to collaborate with district personnel so that we can come up with a great plan, which is to educate our children in this city. And I'm asking you what Gandhi said: be the group that will change the world that you want to see. Make a difference today, make a difference, and show us that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please submit your testimony for the record. The chair now recognizes Kiera Wesley, and next up will be Pri Sabadri. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good evening, honorable distinguished council members and citizens. In brief and in short, my name is Kiera Wesley. I'm a voice from the heartland to Harlem, and I'm resonating with the pulse of Philadelphia's aspirations. Although my roots lie firmly in the heartland of Kansas, where Brown challenged the Board of Education, and my uncle was the architect of the desegregation plan that was widely spread, and from Harlem, where decades later we took on the challenges with 1 million families to climb out of an education crisis such as Philadelphia is facing today. But my spirit is intertwined with the fabric of this great city through my work alongside Bishop Darrell Robinson of Yeshua Ministries. I have witnessed the resilience and hope that defines Philadelphia. I heard him deliver the community prayer with the historic inauguration of Philadelphia's first woman mayor. I've been sitting here today listening to teachers and parents and to the board members and city council, and I just implore today that the August Chamber to transcend the mundane and embrace the extraordinary. That as you deliberate, I urge each of you to measure your decisions against the yardstick of the constitutional promise. And as we align ourselves with history and we march towards justice, it's very important that our kids just get a fair shot. will you be the architect of change, or will you acquiesce to the status quo? The weight of equal protection and due process
Ms.
rests
Wesley,
upon your shoulders.
Please summarize your testimony.
Thank you. And I'm just urging you to rise above partisanship and embrace the mantle of leadership with courage and conviction. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Free Sabadri.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Pri Sabadri. I'll be brief. I'll just follow up on Kiera Wesley talking about the constitutional promise. The allegation against the current regime of the school district is an allegation of racism. Ballard Spahr was commissioned by the current regime to investigate the allegation of racism. About 2 years later, a report was produced. The two key things about the allegation is that it's a 14th Amendment issue. It's about the Equal Protection Clause. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment has two critical components. The findings of the Ballard Spahr report are scathing and they are damning. What we want to implore is that as we go towards a one Philadelphia, it's a one Philadelphia with justice. The second component is the due process element of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. And that basically addresses issues of procedural and substantive due process. The school district right now is contesting in federal courts, being transparent and providing discovery to the claimant. Memphis Street Academy is trying to get information that Ballard Spahr has. We spent hours with them as charter schools, walking them through all the data around inequity and systemic racism. They are spending public resources to fight and resist transparency. The last thing I'd say is this, is that Martin Luther King said that, the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. A special master has been appointed, and by the 20th of June, information will be made available, and this administration can get a black eye because of what will be revealed.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes John F. Street. Chair now recognizes Pat Smith. After Pat Smith is Lori Jones. Pat, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good evening. My name is Patricia Smith. I live in the 4th Councilmatic District. I'm a retired CEO of a national nonprofit. I respectfully urge the City Council of Philadelphia to approve Mayor Sherrell Parker's slate of nominees to the Philadelphia Board of Education. At the outset of the process, Mayor Parker made clear that the City of Philadelphia deserves a school board with the diversity of skills from different neighborhoods, sectors, and communities. She has delivered on this promise. The non-mayoral nominees collectively possess the requisite knowledge, experience, and wisdom to effectively govern the Philadelphia school system. The nominees include incumbents and newcomers. Their skills and experience complement one another. Although the nominees come from different backgrounds and career paths, they are values aligned, each totally committed to equity and ensuring that our children receive the best education. I especially want to shine the spotlight on a particular nominee, Joyce Wilkerson, a former colleague. I had the privilege of working with Joyce at Community Legal Services, the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, and as Director of the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative under Mayor Street's administration. Joyce is an exceptional leader and seasoned public servant who has worked tirelessly on behalf of the City of Philadelphia. She understands what it takes to implement authentic system change. We live in turbulent times. The multiplicity of issues are complex and controversial. In Joyce, you will have someone committed to finding the best path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Lori Jones. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, and after Lori will be Albert Sampson.
Good evening. Are you guys still there? Good evening. Good evening. I am Lori Jones Brown. I'm here as a private citizen. I am a graduate of public schools. I am the daughter of a 40-year educator from the School District of Philadelphia. I served as a teacher, a curriculum specialist in African American Studies, and a charter school principal. I am a former employee of the school district and the School Reform Commission, having served as chief of staff and executive director there. But today I'm here as president of the Joyce Wilkerson Fan Club. For 20 years, like many of you, I served in this building. I served in public service. And I had a chance to serve with Joyce Wilkerson when we worked for Mayor Street. I watched and benefited from her brilliance, competence, her solid, balanced approach, the way that she modeled leadership, how she coached, supported, and mentored so many people like me who've continued on in public service. I benefited from her tutelage. I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed that you didn't get to see and hear from her today and hear her brilliance and her commitment to the thousands of students across the city of Philadelphia that she gets to serve and has served on both the School Reform Commission and on the school board. Joyce is a lifelong learner. I've seen her at the school board and the School Reform Commission spend her own dollars to invest in and learn more about what's happening in education, not just here locally, but across the globe. I know a number of people who serve on the school board and the School Reform Commission. I know a number of the nominees, including one of my mom's classmates who's nominated as well. I have to say that Joyce stands top among the people who, for the last several decades, have volunteered selflessly to serve the students across the school district. And I can't think of a better person for you to consider really not just nominating, and thank the mayor for that, but supporting. It's not my place to suggest to this body what you should do, but it is my role as a citizen and as an informed citizen to let you know that in my opinion, Joyce Wilkerson is one of the most qualified people for this job, and I am grateful for her service and hope you will agree that she would serve again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. Albert Sampson. Okay. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Albert Sampson. I do not have any testimony, but I will submit written comments.
Thank you so much. The chair now recognizes Ira Coates Jr. Ira Coates Jr. Okay. Chair now recognizes Janelle LaRue. You can state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. After Janelle LaRue will be Dr. Robin Cooper and then Keisha Wilkins.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson and members of council. Thank you all for the work that you do for our city that I love so much and I know you love so much, and for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am honored to stand here today to offer my highest commendation to Chow Wing Lam for reappointment to the Board of Education. I ensured I was present when Chow Wing invited me to attend this session. I don't often get to support a dear friend in this capacity publicly. She is someone whose thoughtfulness and integrity have left an indelible impression on me. I have known her for 6 years, and during this time I've had the privilege of witnessing a woman of remarkable character. We met while working in different departments at the School District of Philadelphia. She worked in the Office of Evaluation, Research, and Accountability, and I worked in the Office of College and Career Readiness. My office worked closely with ERA to gather data on FAFSA completion, on track to graduation status, high school graduation, and post-secondary enrollment data. Our relationship started when she stopped at my desk one day, and we had a conversation about the work my office was engaged in with the middle and high schools. From that day, I found a thought partner and strategist in my colleague, someone who supported preparing our young people for post-secondary education. I also found a friend. Chow Wing is a woman who embodies honesty, integrity, and compassion in every aspect of her life. She serves the community with her whole heart and with excellence. I wholeheartedly endorse Chow Wing as a woman of outstanding character to continue on this board. She takes to heart the decisions she makes and cares deeply for the children, youth, and staff and faculty served by the school district. She cares for the community in which it resides as well. She does not take this or any position lightly. Her goal is to always do what is right and best for students, and I am confident that she will continue to positively impact the lives of those around her and contribute meaningfully to this body. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Dr. Robin Cooper, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. After Dr. Robin Cooper will be Keisha Wilkins.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Robin Cooper, President and Principal Officer of Teamsters Local 502, Commonwealth Association of School Administrators. Just giving you some of my background, I attended Philadelphia Public Schools, I attended Meade School, Conwell Middle Magnet School, and I was the first graduating class of Parkway Center City. I didn't just stop at Philadelphia schools, I extended it across the state. I attended Pennsylvania State University for undergrad, I attended Cheney University for grad, and I did the Jesuit thing and attended St. Joseph's for my doctorate. I have been a teacher, assistant principal, assistant to the cluster leader, principal, Teamsters Black Caucus chairperson of the Eastern Region, and a Lindback Award winner for Principal Leadership Award. I say all of that to say I represent principals, assistant principals, climate managers, facility managers. I work with all of those folks to help keep the school district of Philadelphia moving. The school board, this decision that you make will be the most important decision that you will make outside of the gun violence pandemic. I am asking you to please use your voice, use your vote. Our mayor has given what she feels is the best, and I wholeheartedly stand behind her, and I am asking us to please support our mayor and to support the nominations of these 9 individuals. That is not to say that any of the other individuals are not great, but I am asking for us to support our mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Keisha Wilkins. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, and after Keisha will be Danny Cortez.
Good evening. My name is Keisha Wilkins. I am the proud principal of Martin Luther King High School. I have a statement that I'm going to read, and then hopefully I'll have enough time to just say a few short words after that. I'm writing to express my heartfelt support and recognition for the outstanding leadership of Board President Reginald Streeter, Esquire. Mr. Streeter's commitment to the educational welfare of our community, particularly the underserved comprehensive high schools, such as Martin Luther King High School, has been exemplary and deserves our collective acknowledgement and appreciation. As a proud alumnus of Germantown High School, Mr. Streeter brings a unique and valuable perspective to his role. His understanding of the challenges faced by schools in underserved communities is profound, and his actions consistently demonstrate a genuine commitment to addressing these challenges and actively working towards meaningful and lasting solutions. Under his guidance, we have seen an enhanced focus on not only maintaining and exceeding educational standards, but also on nurturing an environment that fosters educational growth and opportunity. His efforts to understand and advocate for the needs of underserved schools have contributed significantly to creating a supportive and effective educational atmosphere in Philadelphia schools. For the past 2 years, Mr. Streeter has honored Martin Luther King High School with his presence at our graduation ceremonies. His participation is more than a ceremonial duty, it is a powerful demonstration of his personal investment and belief in our students' potential and futures. By standing with our graduates, he sends a clear message of hope and confidence that resonates deeply within our community and bolsters our spirits. Mr. Streeter's presence at these events also highlights his leadership in fostering supportive and inclusive environment that acknowledges the achievements of all students regardless of their backgrounds. His involvement goes beyond mere oversight of policy and extends into a genuine heartfelt engagement with the students, educators, and communities he serves. I will say this really quickly. It is important that we do not pit charter schools against public schools, and that is what I felt sitting here today. We are to serve children. What about the children? We have not asked one child to speak today about what they feel when they walk inside of our school buildings, what violence they see on a daily basis, and I want to explain to you all, or at least say, that we are still in a pandemic. I will be brief. We are still in a pandemic. Also, in reference to black male educators in our school, in September of 2022, the chair of the Education Committee put forth a resolution for Martin Luther King High School. I'm proud to stand here and say that I'm the first principal in Philadelphia to recruit and secure 4 black males in core subjects to teach our children. And you know what happened from that year to this year? A 13.5% increase in our Keystone scores in algebra. Let us do the work, but ask us about what we need. You coming to Martin Luther King and seeing how beautiful that school was, it took a lot of ass kicking, excuse me, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but it did for it to get here. I am standing. People who know me know I run through my neighborhood, and anywhere that I go, you will know who I am and you will understand the power of Martin Luther King High School. So let us please remember the children in all that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Danny Cortez. State your name for the record. Proceed with your testimony. Next will be Alfredo Calderon.
We're together. We'll save you 2 minutes.
So please state your name for the record.
My name is Reverend Danny Cortez. My name is Alfredo Calderon. Collectively, we represent 5,000 children in North Philadelphia in several charter schools. I'm here today to implore you to appoint members that have a demonstrated history that aligns with the mayor's commitment to a traditional and charter public school ecology, and have shown they accept this reality. Charters are an asset to our children, parents, and to Philadelphia. They reside in all your councilmanic districts and offer hope to parents who would otherwise have to subject their children to schools that can do an injustice to their futures and squash their parents' aspirations. Appointees that consistently ignore the opportunities charters offer black and brown students, that have a record of past and demonstrated rejection of all things charter around growth and expansion, and have eliminated black and brown charters that could produce high-performing students of color, do not show a commitment to the mayor's vision as she has articulated. Charters are a statistically verified best option for black and brown students. A person with a philosophical commitment that is an unequivocal commitment against charters is doing a disservice to that vision. We need appointees committed to a new practice, and I quote Mayor Parker, of diversity of thought that supports quality seats in both traditional, district, and public charter schools. No us versus them, a united city. And I will conclude, let's treat all of Philadelphia's children with the same level of dedication and tenacity they deserve, no matter what sector they attend, public charter or traditional, parochial or independent. They are all your children in council. A vision is only as good as those tasked to make it happen. We need a passion to serve all children and appointees that acknowledge what is demonstrated best for black and brown. Thank you very much. Alfredo Calderon, I was here to testify about our concerns with some of the nominees. However, my testimony has changed since Mr. Streeter decided to make a statement that's erroneous. 2 of the schools that they took back, which was Alney and Stetson, he mentioned that they were done because of misuse of funds. That is incorrect. Those 2 schools were all 5 schools of our schools were audited by the Auditor General, Eugene De Pasquale. He found no dollars missing. All of the schools were audited by the city controller. They found no issues. Also, the Department of Education audited one of those 2 schools that they took back, and they found no missing money, not $1 missing. Also, there were third-party auditors. He also stated that the Charter Appeals Board had actually found with them, they voted just to uphold their vote, and they did not give us an opportunity to present any evidence to show to the contrary. In a subpoena that we did in our fight, there was a current board member that was asked
why you wanted the schools. So you expected them to say something such as, because they're failing, that they're failing the children, or what they said, what he said, missing funds. None of that was said. All she said was they want the schools back because they want them back into their inventory. That was her statement on the record. All right? They see it as an inventory. They see our children as subjects or objects of an inventory that this district maintains. That's unacceptable. Thank you.
Leonard Wakefield.
Good evening, Leonard Wakefield.
You can begin, Leonard.
Okay. I'm here to represent the board of candidates carefully selected from a pool of 27 individuals by our new mayor, Sherelle Parker. This team has been chosen as the new school board under her leadership. I urge you to vote in favor of this mayoral appointed team to ensure the continuity of crucial work while welcoming new esteemed members to the board. Let me address the recent smear tactics surrounding the debate on charter schools. It's essential to recognize these tactics for what they are, nothing more than attempts to distort the facts. Contrary to how it's been portrayed, our board has supported charter schools. Some may urge that it has leaned more towards pro-charter than pro-public schools. As board members, we often confront contentious issues regarding public versus charter schools, union matters, community interests, and special interest groups. However, as long as our decisions adhere to charter school law, they should be respected. Consider, for instance, the tenure of Joyce Wilkerson, during which several charter schools were approved since 2018. The return to local charter has seen a 90% renewal rate for charters, yet there are attempts to paint Ms. Wilkerson, a highly accomplished individual with over 40 years of stellar career in government, as an anti-charter without acknowledging her record of charter school appointments and expansion. Perhaps the real issue isn't about being anti-charter, but instead about being against poorly performing charters. This misfortune being spread is nothing short of lies, and it's essential to demand proof for those who propagate such falsehoods. The previous school board undoubtedly had some areas to improve upon. However, holding them accountable for not approving expansions for operations whose existing schools have alarmingly low reading and math scores is injustifiable. The debate should not dissolve into charter versus public. It's about ensuring the presence of high-quality schools regardless of their classification. Thank you for your attention, and I urge you to consider the facts when deciding.
You're welcome. Sean Allenai, did I pronounce that right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Council members. Thank you for this opportunity. I am here today to speak. My name is Sean Al Leon. I'm here to speak today for the current board president, Reggie Tender has been numerous improvements, particularly engaged in school and community members. Under the president leadership are the following initiative: removal of physical barriers such as stations from all of the auditorium and we position board members that's closer to the community for a more inclusive atmosphere. Relaxation of the 2-minute speaker rule to allow for increased community input, establish of engagement, structure members of the charter school, office, CSO, leadership team, structure, assignment, a member of the charter or office, SEO leadership team as the right point of contact for each school. Introduce of office hour program, provide open opportunities for engagement with SC-based subject matter experts. Doubling of S or CSO staff, current 22 full-time employees, better support school, enhancement of community, include update monthly newsletters format, provide periodic updates and on school organization process, operational requirements, and engagement opportunities. Additionally, this newsletter highlight schools, students and schools success. While many accomplishments is not listed, the highlights above underscore Skager's commitment to supporting charters by implementing strategies to help them meet standards outlined charter school law and are imperative to have leaders who will act as responsible stewards of funds allocated to the Philadelphia children. Thank you for your attention.
Next up is Amy Hollister. Amy Hollister.
Here without glasses. I'm going to make this work. My name is Amy Hollister. I've been a proud Philadelphia school educator and administrator in Philadelphia for 25 years. Thank you, Rue, but I got it on the computer. Today I'm here representing Philadelphia Charters for Excellence, also known as PCE. We are a nonprofit membership organization founded in 2011, and today we represent 80 brick and mortar charter schools here in our city. We collectively educate 1/3 of the public school students in this city. That's more than 62,000 children. They come from every single one of your councilmatic districts, and we share that information with you today. As others have stated, with the new leadership in the mayor's office, on city council, and in the school board, there is great opportunity to create our One Philadelphia that we've heard so often, and I've heard it today, that it's not public, traditional, and charter One Philadelphia, and I applaud Mayor Parker for that theme. Real change starts with ensuring that every member of the school board is committed to fully supporting charter schools and district-operated schools, but it does not stop there. Others have spoken about deep challenges charter schools faced under the previous school board and detailed the recent Ballard Spar investigation. There are some important fixes that can be put into place to address those problems. Today I want to outline 4 of those. 1, continue to welcome public charter schools as leading collaborators in innovation. I've walked through 80 of the 83 schools in this city that are charters. I've walked through the halls of most of them, and I can tell you that the unique and innovative spaces that I've seen are just amazing. We have everything from Afrocentric education, careers in STEM, freedom schools, language, arts immersion. These are the reasons that people are staying in Philadelphia. 2, we need to reform how charter schools are authorized and evaluated. The Ballard report laid bare reasons we need to develop a new authorizing framework and model charter agreement till a fair, unbiased, and transparent evaluation can be created in collaboration with leaders. All non-safety charter renewals should be paused. 3, we should hold all Philadelphia schools in the same regard. Often we'll hear great things about our traditional public schools, but we will be left out of those awards or those announcements, and as charters, we think that that should be across the city. 4, we would like to stand with you and support budget reform so that all schools are adequately funded. We definitely have a great opportunity in front of us with the new funding hearing. And in closing, I would just like to say that with a new school board, new authorizing policy, and fiscal financial equity on the horizon, Philadelphia schools can be what we want them to be, a true opportunity for our city's children to achieve and be the people we all know they can be. Please make this a reality by appointing and holding accountable 9 new board members who accept the challenge of fairness for all schools. I thank you and good night.
Horace Clouden. I'm also going to ask for, is it Tina Klutmeyer? Is there a Tina Klutmeyer here? Tina Klutmeyer? Okay. Mama Gail. Go ahead, Mr. Horace.
Yes, my name is Horace Clouden. I did apply to be on the school board. And my reasoning is because I am experienced with facilities. Okay, for the last 12 years, I worked in over 100 schools as a building engineer, plus was on the 4 newly built work sites. I also have training in 10 different CTE courses. Plus, I developed a training manual for engineer trainees, and I did push back on facility action items. You know, with all the 12 years of research that I have done, the one thing I can say to everybody in this room, bring back junior high schools, 7th, 8th, and 9th. I've been saying that for the last 12 years, okay? We have 123 middle grade locations. You're never going to get parity in any of that stuff. You're never going to get an equal education out of 123 locations. Downsize it to 25 junior high schools. You have the facilities already. These schools can handle the load. It's not that you get an elementary school, you make a K-8, now you got 7th and 8th grade in there, and everybody's crying about you don't have enough electrical to supply it. You do have it in 25 junior high schools, and you still have the buildings. When you talk about facilities master plan, right now the facility master plan doesn't list the schools that have pools in it, or they don't list the schools that have athletic spaces attached to them, okay? Inaccurate facility master plan. When we talk about testing of students, I said to the board, you should test every 3rd grader to 12th grader in 3rd grade math without a calculator and English language arts. What we don't understand or what we don't understand is this. That test is the same entry-level job. It's the same test for an entry-level job. 3rd grade level math plus English language arts. Now, You have schools, now we talk about school safety. I don't know if you know, we have some schools that's 200, 300, 400, and 700 over building capacity. These schools are not safe. When you talk about the school budget is grossly underfunded, how can it be grossly underfunded when 90% of the budget goes to salaries and benefits? You know, what we need is better productivity out of the staff. Now you talk about teacher shortage. Philadelphia does not have a teacher shortage. Philadelphia has a 96% teacher fill. The problem with the teachers in Philadelphia is they don't come to work. We have a $10 million substitute fees that the district is paying for teachers not coming to work. We talk about swimming pools. There's 5 pools that can be put back online right now because this board has approved $10 million worth of materials for these spots, plus $8 million in maintenance support. So you don't have to worry about adding additional money for the pools to bring them back online. Plus, I submitted a pool plan. You know, the district, let's see, okay. The district always focused on the best schools. Okay, I'll do it real quick. This is important. The district is always focusing on the better schools. The schools above the river get the support, the schools below the river do not. I have gave the school district a map to show them the divide in the city. Now, with the one board member that might come on that said, well, I'm a fight to get what the students need. You're a board member. You don't need to fight for anything. Policy 000 gives you the authority to tell the superintendent what you need to have done. So get this fight out of here and just start demanding from the superintendent to do a better job. Thank you.
Mama Gail.
Peace and love, family. I am standing here in honor of those that came before us. I stand here declaring, decreeing, and claiming that we go back to the basics for new beginnings. That's what the ancestors are calling for. Our children have been cheated too much. You heard my husband. This man almost died. He was the engineer that got poisoned by carbon monoxide in a school. It took 6 years after he was sick for a year to get his pay. And we were told he was one of the best in the district. We were told they wanted 100 more men like that man. What is it about that man that he can't serve? I'm just asking you. Family, a lot of stuff is criminal. There's no reason in this world why our children in Philadelphia can't read, can't write, can't do math, can't read a clock, and can't sign their names. I call it criminal. If they're going to school from the beginning, when everybody says kindergarten, if they're going to school from kindergarten to 12th grade, they should know those things. I don't have a lot to say because this is not the place. If I'm talking to you as I've talked to them, all these years I've been at board meetings from the Parkway, all right, sitting with Dr. Clayton. If we don't do something, see, I was in a tornado a week and a half ago. You got an earthquake feeling. If we don't do what's right by these beautiful beings that God is sending here, you have not seen anything yet. I'm telling you, the storm he showed me years ago that's coming if we don't do right, it's nothing like it's ever been seen before. We've seen all kinds of stuff all over the world. You have not seen what's coming here to this city. This is a very spiritual place. There's a reason why it was the beginning. Let me tell you, when I say the beginning, y'all know government, everything started here. Went to D.C. and Washington, but it started here. Wall Street, everything. Family, we got to get it together, and we got to work together like never before. I don't care who sits in those seats. If they sit in those seats and they keep saying yes to amendments, to contracts, people come and they say, this is what I want. This is what I want, this is what's voted on, and come back and there's an amendment. Come on, they might not have been the lowest bid. I'm just saying, there's oversight that's needed at the school district of Philadelphia. I'm not talking about hiring firms to come in from Easter Blit. I'm talking about people doing their jobs. People saying you're not doing what's right. And the other thing I talk about all the time is the lies. The lies, the half-truths. And I'm telling you, people in management position has got to stand up and really pay attention. Enough bringing all these people in from everywhere else. Let's deal with what we have. There's no reason why our young people can't get these jobs. I talked about South Africa years ago. I talked to Dr. Ackerman. I talked to Dr. Height. Why is it still that our city looks like South Africa when it comes to construction? Something's wrong. You're welcome. Something's wrong. Thank you, Mama Gail.
Thank you, Mama Gail. Is there anyone else here for public comment? Okay, hearing none. I want to thank all our witnesses for their participation today. We value your opinion. We will now go into our public meeting to consider the action to be taken on bills number 240-254, 240-255, 240-256, 240-257, 240-258, 240-259, 240-260, and 240-262. Well, Mr. Christmas, could you please call the roll and take attendance?
Councilman Squilla. Council Lady Gautier. Councilman Jones. Present. Councilman Young. Councilman Driscoll. Present. Council Lady Lozada. Present. Council Lady Bass. Present. Councilman Phillips. Present. Councilman O'Neill. Council Lady Gilmore Richardson. Present. Councilman Thomas. Present. Councilman Harity. Present. Council Lady Ahmad. Present. Council Lady Landau. Present. Council Lady Brooks. Councilman O'Rourke. Present. Council President Johnson.
Present. Thank you. The chair now recognizes Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for a motion on resolutions number 240-254, 240-255, 240-256, 240-257, 240-258, 240-259, 240-260, and 240-262.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that resolutions 240-254, 240-255, 240-256, 240-257, 240-258, 240-259, 240-260, and 240-262 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and that the rules of council be suspended as to permit consideration of these resolutions at our next session of council.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Thomas seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that resolutions number 240-254, 240-255, 240-256, 240-257, 240-258, 240-259, 240-260, and 240-262 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation that the rules of council be suspended to permit consideration of these resolutions at our next session of council. All those in favor will signify the motion by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and resolutions number 240-254, 240-255, 240-256, 240-257, 240-258, 240-259, 240-260, and 240-262 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation with the suspension of the rules to permit consideration of these resolutions at our next session of council. This concludes the business for today of the Committee of the Whole. We thank everyone for being here. Peter.